Good evening. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. First and foremost, we'd like to take a moment to thank Jake and all the guys over at the network for providing the bandwidth for this lovely broadcast. Second, want to remind you that we do have that contest going on for the Anderson Arms 80% lower. Go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel and get signed up. Right now, we only have 176 subscribers, so it's a pretty good chance you've got right now. Well, gang, thanks for covering last week. Appreciate it. And so we'll start off with our usual of what did we do in guns and Second Amendment. And since I wasn't here, I'll go first. I did go and shoot some more video for the for my upcoming review on the chronograph. And because unfortunately the second half of the video that I had shot was corrupt, so I wound up going and reshooting it. That's kind of the drawback to digital. Sometimes you get a bad SD card and don't find out until you go to record it. So second thing I did is I actually went Friday morning and did some scouting for deer hunting, which opens this coming weekend, so I'm kind of excited and pumped about that. Taking the boys out, so. How about you, Jason? What'd you do?
I got my Lee hand press and started playing with that. I bought this because when I go out of town, I get bored some nights and I want to do a little reloading, so I've been playing with it, dialing things in, figuring it out. Started to get ready to make some test loads for some 40 Smith & Wesson. Jim sent me some 145 grain bullets, so I'm just getting all the cases ready, getting things figured out. I think that was about it for this week.
All right, how'd you do, Jim?
I didn't do too bad. I got myself a nice copy of Speer number 14. The Speer Reloading Manual, number 14, and it's a nice thick book and all sorts. It's like, oh boy, 1,150 pages of a reloading manual. Got a lot of material to read. But just be quiet, Jason. I can read, believe it or not. And I also got, back here, I got myself a Forster Products Datum dial kit. Everything is here except for the dial calipers, but it comes with 3 dials. I have 4, and all this is all it is just a hole, but I can set that to measure the datum line on a cartridge, and I can actually make comparisons between loaded rounds, ball ammunition, fired rounds. And I can do it all correctly at the correct dimension. That would be on the shoulder of the case. And I'm sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about the phone call, folks. And probably there goes my bandwidth. But anyway, and for the Second Amendment, I basically, as always, I run a pretty good. I run a pretty big Facebook group called NRA, of all things, and most of the admins work their hearts out trying to keep that thing going, trying to keep the group focused on either the guns or the NRA, or at least the Second Amendment, that sort of thing. But that's it for me. It's just pretty much the same, business as usual. Every day is Second Amendment, every day is guns or something. I kind of live with the gun,
Yep.
As do we all.
Yes. So, tonight we're going to talk about seating your cartridges on a single-stage press.
Seating cartridges?
Or the brass for sizing.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Too much rum in that drink you got.
I wish. No, it was just general dumb-buttedness. So, it's been one of those days.
Well, we were going to go start over with the. We were basically going to go back to the basics. I think we agreed off the air.
Yep. Yep. So we're gonna kind of go back and go over the basics. In the meantime, we'll also cover some questions here and there as we go through the episodes. But the idea is, this podcast we want to cover for the advanced listener, but we also want to make sure we keep bringing that information up for the new listener that doesn't maybe have the opportunity to get a mentor. So, excuse me. Unfortunately, as everybody can see, I'm not at my bench tonight. I'm in the house because, unfortunately, I had equipment problems, so we won't be able to show you as much as we did normally, but we'll still talk about how everything goes. And first thing is kind of, okay, so when you're looking for dies, Jim, say you're getting your first set of dies for a caliber, what are you kind of looking for? I mean, are you looking for a particular brand, a particular type?
Well, obviously, first thing you have to do is determine the caliber. What are you going to shoot? What are you going to reload? Is it going to be for handgun? Is it going to be for rifle or for shotgun? That's the first thing you have to determine is what's the first thing you want. What gun do you want to shoot the most?
Well, let's say it's a rifle for this demonstrational purpose.
Okay.
And for fun, let's do 303 British.
There you go. That'll work. Well, now, actually, as far as I'm concerned, and the president of Redding Reloading Products will hang me if he hears me say this, but as far as I'm concerned, the inside of the die, reloading die, is the same on all the major brands. They all have their little bells and their whistles, but basically the idea is to jam that cartridge up inside that die, reduce it back down to factory specs.
Okay.
And so I'm not particularly brand loyal. From what I understand, Hornady makes fine dies, absolutely. So does Redding, so does RCBS, and so does Lee. Most of the times, when it comes right down to it, a reloader is going to take in, there's one criteria a reloader has, and that's price.
Yep.
So that's what he's going to probably wind up doing, is going with the cheapest dice he can find because he's not real sure what other bells and whistles are incorporated in those other dies. So accordingly, let's just assume that particular reloader / shooter is looking for a set of Lee dies and 303 British. The other thing he will have will be he'll have to make sure he knows the bullet diameter, so his expander ball will be the proper diameter, and he also has to make sure that he gets the proper shell holder for extracting that case out of the die.
Okay. Now, here's another question. Say they're completely different caliber. Somebody's just getting into hunting, and they're going to start out with 30-06. And so they're looking for, they've got the brass, they've got a bullet already, they've got the powder, they've got the primers, but they don't have dies or press. Does it really make a difference? Honestly, excluding cost, I mean, as far as, do you match the dies? Do you really need to match the dies to the press? Or is the press, and then, as long as the dies will thread in and work with it, you're fine and dandy?
Well, you're asking 3 questions right there, and that's fine. First thing is, yes, you can buy a press for, I don't even know what the Lee turret press is going for. I think it's going for $67. And that's from the Titan Reloading site. But you can also spend $200 on the press too, and that press is going to be made out of cast iron. It's going to be an O-frame press. It's going to be much stronger than the Lee Classic Turret press because the body of the Lee Classic Turret is aluminum. However, the cast iron O press is going to be much stronger. It's going to be more rigid, and rigidity in reloading has always been considered a very good thing. That's why we don't try to take a reload on a 1/4 inch to 1 tabletop as opposed to 3 pieces of half inch plywood or something like that, something that's not going to give. And a good sturdy bench as opposed to the kitchen table. So that's number one. That's the answer about the press. Yes, you can. There is a difference between presses. Most folks, and practically speaking, most folks will never see the difference between the Lee Classic Turret and a Bonanza Coax. The Bonanza Coax is on the cover of this book, which Mr. Wooders is actually handling, and that die literally snaps in there. And everything is kept within the yoke of the handle. However, that's considered to be the elite press as far as single stage presses. However, that information is actually kind of dated. There's a new press out there. It's got a 2-inch ram. It's even better. Okay, and the third one is no, you do not have to match up your dies to your press. Everything all comes 7/8 14. That's the standard size diameter, 14 threads per inch, and they all fit each other's press. Lee dies will fit in the Redding press. Redding dies will fit in the Hornady press. Hornady press will fit, or dies will fit in the Dillon press. So it really doesn't have to be. It depends upon how much money you want to spend, really, or can afford to spend.
Okay.
Jim, is there an exception to the dies fitting in the different presses?
Not to my knowledge, Jason. The only real exception I can think of is on that Hornady stuff. You can answer this better than I, because I know you got a Hornady press sitting out in your barn. But is those shuttle or those inserts that they wrap around it for a quick change?
Yeah, quick change bushings. Yeah.
That's the only exception I could see, where you just snap that right into your press. Am I right, Jason?
That's correct. I was just thinking of there's a Dillon that has its own dies. I cannot remember the model of it.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do, my friend. I do know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about the Dillon Square Deal B.
Square Deal B.
I believe their dies are 5/8. They're considerably smaller, but that particular setup is you're buying one press, one caliber. It comes set up in the factory, and you don't have to adjust the dies except for bullet seating and crimping. If you're going from 38 357, that sort of thing.
All right.
Yeah, you're talking about the Square Deal B. Those are special dies, but they're not interchangeable with anything else. But anyway, no, as far as the inside goes, if you want to resize that 30-06 case with a Hornady die or a Redding die or whatever, they're all made to take and resize the casing right back down to spec.
Okay. So we've inspected our cases. What do we do now? We've inspected our cases. We've gotten our dies. We've gotten our press. What do we do now?
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to take and hand it over to my friend Jason Trumbo. He came up with this particular topic, and I'm going to make him earn his keep.
Okay. We need to set up our dies in our press. Is that where we're going with this, Mike?
Yep. So just a basic simple O-frame press is what we've got.
Okay. So your resizing decapping die, you're going to raise the ram all the way up, and then you're going to screw the die down to touch it.
Excuse me.
And then you're going to lower the ram, and you're going to give that an 1/8 more of a turn. Uh-oh, Jim's correcting me. What did I screw up, dude?
You forgot something. You forgot to snap your show holder in.
Ah, good point. I guess we need a show holder.
I did mention it. Continue, please, my friend. Please. I don't.
Okay. So you put your show holder in, raise the ram all the way up, turn the die to where it touches the ram. You lower the ram. You give the die another 1/8 of a turn, and then lock it down, and you're ready to start resizing, decapping your brass.
So we're doing a 30-06. and I go ahead and I followed your instructions. And I took my first piece of brass and I slid it in there.
Oh boy.
Did you lube it?
No, because you didn't tell me to, so now I've got a piece of brass stuck in my die.
Sorry.
Cranking on it, and it won't come out, and I'm not sure what to do.
There goes the rim.
Yeah, you
I
gotta.
love this podcast. We have so much fun.
You have to lube the cases. Now there is a whole different. Let's put it this way: there's probably as many lubes for using on cases as there is for lubing up the bolt on your AR-15. And I'm not kidding. If you search case lube, put it in a Google search, you're going to find pages upon pages upon pages. And not only is there different products, but everybody's got their own ideas. They argue about it just like Ford and Chevy. You know, you get your brand loyalty, and everybody sticks to it. I've used a few different types. Jim, actually, don't you make your own now?
No, I don't. No, I don't. But in the reloading room, we have Jason uses a product that he actually made. He bought some lanolin and he diluted it with alcohol. Jason, I don't know what the formula is, but that lanolin actually worked to size this round of ball ammunition that had been fired in an oversized chamber machine gun. It actually works to size that down because regular Lee, the white lube that you get from Lee Precision, simply couldn't do the job. I was pulling rims off like nobody's business. But the lanolin alcohol mixture Jason puts in a spray bottle for these, he sprays it on basically like a Hornady one shot, as I understand it. It's well, Jason, what's the formula on that lube? Do you remember off the top of your head, bud?
I believe it's 12 parts alcohol to 1 part liquid lanolin.
That's something we'll definitely have to put in the show notes. Now is that Jack Daniels?
Not spraying it on your nut pad or anything. You're using a spray bottle, right? Like a Windex bottle?
Correct. Yes, it's Jack Daniels. I use that exclusively.
All right.
Oh, that kind of lubrication. That's entirely different. I like Captain Morgan myself.
You know, I have a plethora of tastes. I think right now I've got some schnapps, I've got some Patron, and not in my glass. It's just water tonight. I figured I didn't want to make it any worse by, you know, drinking and then slurring my speech and falling off. And anyway, so Jason, how much testing did you do? I mean, did you just happen to get lucky and come up with the first mixture right, or did you have something you were starting off of, or?
No, somebody else in the reloading room. Jim, can you remember his name?
Yes, I do. I know exactly who it is.
He's not on there too much.
Right, he's not on very much. Okay, Jason, watch your screen. I'll give you the name.
Is it okay to say it on air, Jim? Or?
I would think so, but I want you to do the same.
Okay.
There, you should have it now.
There we go. Anthony Gorman. I don't know how he got it, but he played around with the formula and the ratios. And what he was trying to do was copy the Dillon spray lube. And I believe it was 12-to-1 is what he came up with. Was a pretty close match. But so I just got it out of the files because he made a file out of it.
Okay.
Now, Jason, you're using factory brass. Am I correct? For your rifle cartridges?
Yeah.
You're not using any GI brass whatsoever, correct?
I have some, but I don't think I've actually run across it and used it yet.
Not even in your ARs?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, remember, keep an eye out for that oversized chamber problem because it makes the brass a little bit bigger, a little bit tougher to resize.
Yeah, I'm going to probably have that issue when I get into come this spring, after I build, my boys and I are building a couple of ARs for them. So I've got that big box of brass that I brought home from the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and a lot of that stuff was shot out of the Negev. So I'm pretty sure it's probably a little oversized.
Yep.
So we'll do that as an episode when I get to that point, but that's not
Okay.
now. So maybe we'll make that a couple episodes. We'll show how to make up the lube mix and go through that and then do that. But like I said, that's a spring project. So
So as I understand it, so it's 12 ounces of alcohol to 1 ounce of liquid lanolin. Mix
Yep.
the two together, and the alcohol will dissolve the lanolin. I know it would do that. And it's like, it sounds pretty good to me. I've never used it.
I used it to form some 308 out of 30-06 and had 0 issues. I was really happy with
That's
the-
quite a long way to size that down. What do you have, like a half-inch stovepipe coming off the top of that case then?
yeah, pretty long.
To trim off. It got to be at least a half-inch to trim off.
Yeah.
just bored or what?
Just to try it, just to see what it was like.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'll probably need some of that this spring also. My new AR I'm making is going to be in 25-45 sharps. Basically, it's taking a 223 and knocking it up to use the 257 bullet that they use in the Weatherby mags and the Roberts. So I'm looking forward to that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sharps Rifle Company came out with it, hence the 25-45 Sharps. It's the same name. It's not the same company, though.
Okay, the 45, that would be the metric measurement for the case length.
Right.
Boy, when you use the word 45 and sharps together, it's like, ain't no way in the world you're going to get a 45-70 case to work in any AR platform.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? I wouldn't say that.
True. They put 300 mag in an AR platform.
Yeah, the Nemo Omen is a bad rifle.
Yes, sir. I actually got to touch one at the NRA show.
That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of NRA show, I'm going. Jim,
All right.
you're probably going.
I'll see you in Nashville, buddy.
Jason, are you going to be able to make it?
No, sir, I cannot.
All right. One of these days we'll have to get together. Maybe we can plan it for the 2016 SHOT Show, because I can't go to the 2015, but that's only a hop, skip, and a jump for you, Jason.
13-hour drive.
13 hours?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I could probably get to Jim's house faster than you could get to SHOT Show then.
Probably. What about
All right.
Nevada is a SHOT Show? Isn't that in Reno?
Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas? Okay.
Yeah.
In Vegas is 13 hours for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in Northern California by all the psychotic nuts.
They're down around Los Angeles and San Diego.
No,
San
it's
Francisco. Oh,
no.
I
The ones
forgot.
I was referring to would be Sacramento.
You're right. You're right. We better stop. We better stop. We're getting political. I don't mind getting political on Jason, but other people are going to take offense.
So
And you had to chide me last. You had to chide me for a stupid comment last week. So we'll stop. Okay. But anyway, back to the lubrication. Okay, so we've lubricated the case, and we're going to take and use this fancy mixture. Well, fancy. This mixture that Anthony Gorman came up with. Nice to see you, Anthony, even though I know you'll never see this. But, okay, then what do? We just start jamming them in there? Jason?
well, we got to get this one that's stuck first. How are we going to get that one out?
We don't want to do that.
Because now we
That's-
can't use the die. Because there's
that's-
brass stuck in there.
That's advanced reloading, Mike. We're on the basics, okay?
It could be a real problem though.
It will be. I can guarantee it. I've
So-
had as many as 7 in one night.
Just so you know, usually if you do get one stuck, and as long as you don't rip the rim off of it, most of your decapping and sizing dies, you can actually unscrew the decapper and pull it out through the top, and then that usually will give you access to the die. And you can, what I've done is taken a punch and taking the punch down through the center of the die and lightly tap until the case comes loose. It may take you a while. So what I'll do is I'll actually leave the die in the press so that I don't have to hold the die and everything else. Otherwise, I know people who've had to actually, they've ripped the rim off and they've actually had to go to some extreme measures to get the brass out. The nice thing is the brass is softer than the hardened die, so you're usually going to tear up the brass and destroy the brass long before you ever damage the die.
This is true. In a nutshell, you have to drill out. If you go the way I always gone, you have to drill the hole out. And you have to tap threads into the hole, and you have to pull it out with a bushing, flat washer, a nut, and a set screw. Socket head cap screw. You have to actually use a nut and bolt to pull it clear out of the die. So the point is, use your lubrication.
Yep.
Mike, may I make a suggestion for the show notes?
Sure.
We put in that RCBS stuck case extractor kit.
Yeah.
Link to it exists on Midway.
Okay.
But anyway, let's get back to the basics.
All right. So we've got our cases lubed. Jason, is this something we want to put them in while they're wet, or do we want to let them dry first? Or does it make a difference?
I let them dry. I put mine in a shoebox, spray them, and just let them sit for a minute or two.
Okay. Do you shake them around at all when you go in to spray them, or you just kind of?
Yes, I am shaking them, and I'm spraying them lightly, but I'll spray them a couple of times while I'm shaking.
Okay. And then let them dry, and then you can go ahead. So now, go ahead and we run the first one up there, and we size it. What are we going to do after we size it? What do we need to, is it good to go? We can just throw it off to the side and throw a primer in it and powder and a bullet, and away we go? Or is there more?
It wouldn't hurt to check the length, make sure we're not too long.
Okay. Yeah. And the reason Jason says that is every time you fire, especially a shoulder case, that neck stretches. And so what you can get is you can get it where the neck's too long, and you go to seat off the neck length, and all of a sudden you go to put that cartridge in your rifle, and now you've got a quarter of an inch to a half an inch sticking out of the back of the chamber. You slam the bolt home and you slam fire, or worse, the cartridge gets stuck, and now you've got a live cartridge stuck in your barrel that you have no easy way to get out. The reason is when that neck stretches out, sometimes it's negligible. Sometimes, depending on the cut of the chamber of the fire that fired it, it can be quite a bit. Because what happens every time you pull the trigger is that brass actually expands out and fills the entire cartridge or the entire chamber, and also goes forward into the front of the chamber and sometimes into the rifling. And then as soon as it cools just briefly, it shrinks back a little bit. It never shrinks back to what it started out as. That's why we have to resize them. But it does shrink down a little bit so you can actually get it to pull out of the chamber. So that's why you got to trim it, or at least measure it. If it's first fired, Jason, Jim, have you guys run into any first fired where you've actually had to trim them?
Absolutely. You get something like GI brass, and I favor GI brass because it's so nice and heavy. But you get something like GI brass, it's always at maximum length. These 308 cases, every one of them was actually in excess of 2 inches and 15 thousandths, and that's the actual spec on the max spec on these cases. But I always trim mine back to at least. Generally speaking, what I do is I trim mine every time. But the reason why I say every time is because I trim mine to 2 and 10 thousandths, 2.010 instead of 2.05. And the reason is I trim it every time because that way I know it's just faster if I trim them. If I trim 100 cases, it's just faster to trim whatever's long. And if it doesn't get trimmed, no harm done.
Okay. So instead of
use a drill press to do my trimming.
Yeah. So basically, instead of actually going through measuring every one and then trimming the ones that need to be trimmed, you just cut your losses and just trim them all. Because the way you've got it set up, and the way most of them are set up, is there's actually a case length gauge that you use. Being it's a drill press, I'm sure it's probably a little easier. Or now, did you make your own case length gauge, or are you using somebody's?
I'm using the world's finest trimmer, WFT, and it's actually made to fit in a cordless drill.
Okay.
It's actually made and designed to run horizontally, but I put it up in my drill press. It works.
Okay. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
WFT, the world's finest trimmer. I think it's made out of Little Crow Gun Works or something like that.
All right. Jason, what do you use, and what do you do? Do you trim everyone? Do you measure them?
I trim everyone. I use shoulder cutter like Jim does, but I'm trying to remember the name of it now. Wow. Mike, what's the name of the company that came out with that new wet tumbler, the Platinum model?
Frankfurt?
Frankfurt Arsenal Platinum. I have that in a case prep station that has a trimming kit on it.
Okay, that's right. You bought a case prep station.
Yeah.
Now, how does that actually set the length, Jason? Does it have a plunger that goes down to the bottom of the case, on the head of the case on the inside?
No, it doesn't. This goes off the shoulder.
Okay.
So you have to resize first before you trim.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Does the WFT actually have something that goes inside the case?
No, it goes the same principle. It trims off the shoulder.
Okay.
So we've trimmed the cases. We're all. Next step would be to do what? It depends upon. Well, you got to see primers, but there's something you've got to check before even that. You got to determine what your ammunition is going to be made for. If you're going to making plinking ammo, you know, what kind of bullet do you want to buy? What kind of powder are you going to use?
Say it's it's just plinking ammo. So we're just making 308 147 grain FMJs.
Okay, good enough. Well, then you just use a rather inexpensive powder to use is IMR 4895 and all that. So we've got all that determined. Well, the next thing we got to do is, like I said, with this GI brass, the primer head, you can see where the crimp has been removed. Okay, well, what I'm talking about is...
You want to show that again, Jim? It didn't show up clear.
Sure thing. No problem at all. I'll take and forgive the jiggling, folks. I'll set up, try to get on this real close. Hold it at a bit of an angle so that you can see there's actually a bit of a chamfer. You see the reflection on my left thumb, towards my left thumb?
Yeah.
The reflection right there, that bright edge, that is actually the radius that I created when I swaged the primer pocket.
Okay. So what was that process?
Good one, Mike. I missed that. Swaging. Swaging is a method of moving metal under pressure. You okay, Jason?
Fine.
What it is I have a plunger that I actually put up inside of the primer pocket that is exactly the correct diameter to fit into a large primer pocket such as on this 308, and it also has a bit of a chamfer on it, a curvature, like so, to take and get rid of the sharp edge that's at the mouth of the primer pocket, because this GI brass was formed with a crimp on it to take and help hold the primer in to enhance reliability. The military builds their ammunition with one thing in mind, utmost, paramount, essential, and that is reliability. They do not want to lose primer interfering with a machine gun in the middle of a firefight. So they crimp their primers in. But anyway, the point is, I'm actually removing a crimp so I can see the primer into it.
Okay. What if you don't have a fancy swaging device? What can you do?
Well, in that case, what you can do is what I've routinely done is you take your case mouth chamfering tool, and you can actually take and use that on the head of the case to remove the primer crimp that way. You do it by hand, you'll never remove too much metal. If you put it up in a drill press, you can and you will remove too much metal. If you put it up in that drill press and you hold it all the while I'm talking, you're going to grind and grind, you're going to cut all that metal away, and it's like the primer is not even going to sit in there because I just carved all the metal away. You only really want to just barely break the edge, maybe a 5 thousandths, maybe a 10 thousandths chamfer, and that's it.
Just enough to take the edge off so the primer doesn't crumple when you try and shove it in there.
Correct, because what you're actually doing is you're creating a funnel to help the primer ease its way in there.
Okay.
Funnel effect.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty well covered case prep. Getting ready for the next step. But we'll cover that on the next show. For tonight, we just wanted to, get through the case prep from, covering from after you've looked it over to make sure there wasn't any dents and stuff. Now we've gone through and we've gotten the old primer out. We've resized it to correct size and correct diameter, correct length. And now we've taken care of any other issues like crimped in primers, that type of thing. So now we're ready to start loading it. But like I said, we're going to save that for the next episode.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Folks, we want to thank you for tuning in. Also, please, if you're going to use Amazon or you're going to use Brownells, Sinclair's, stop by the Reloading Podcast first. Click on the affiliate links. And it doesn't cost you any more money, but it helps out the show and it helps out the Firearms Radio Network to continue to be able to rent the server space and rent the storage space to be able to continue to bring this podcast and many others to you. Like I said, it doesn't cost you anything extra, so we really ask that you just please help out. Also, hit the forums over at weapon-owners.com. We're hanging out over there a bit too, as well as the Reloading Room and the Reloading Podcast on Facebook. So stop by, say hi. Once again, reminder, if you want a chance at that 80% lower, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Reloading Podcast channel. And we just ask that you just continue to tune in. Send us feedback. Let us know what you think. Do you like the show? Do you like the format? Do you not like what's going on? Just let us know what we can do better, what you like, what we're doing. You can send an email to reloading@firearmsradio.tv. Once again, that's reloading@firearmsradio.tv. Hey, we got applause.
And folks, if you want to, you can even complain about whether or not Jason should shave.
No, I shouldn't.
No, Jason's exempt. Come on, it's No Shave November. Smatter too. If it wasn't for the fact that mine winds up itching so much after a couple days, I'd be doing it. But this is kind of the first. This is the first year in 10 years I haven't had a beard.
Try a toothbrush. Carry a toothbrush in your pocket. It'll help with the itching.
Yeah, I'll be right on that right now. Let me go find that toothbrush.
It does. I'm not kidding you. If you grow a beard, use a toothbrush.
Jim?
What?
You sniffed too much of this as a child, didn't you?
I love you too, Mike.
Mwah.
You maniac.
I just happened to look over there when you're talking, and I saw that, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, it's like Scott Kelly in the Reloading Room. I love this hobby. I love this podcast. We have so much
it's a
fun.
blast. Yep, and that's what we want to do, is we want to have fun. Sorry we couldn't be as visual this week. Unfortunately, I'm going to go take a sledgehammer to my laptop and fix that problem. So, but I should be back out in the garage next week, and we'll be able to actually demonstrate all of this. But you can go back into the archives, and especially on the YouTube channel, and see the videos from previous podcasts where we actually did go through video-wise and show how you go through and do the different steps. So if you do have any questions, feel free to send us an email. I get the email on my smartphone. I pretty much carry it with me most of the time. So if you've got a dire questions, shoot me an email, reloading@firearmsradio.tv, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Otherwise, Reloading Room on Facebook. Go there, post there. It's a troll-free zone. I
You got
repeat,
that right.
it's a troll-free zone.
Or you could go over to the Reloading podcast page and post questions over there too. I don't follow the Reloading podcast page quite so much because I'm so busy with the Reloading Room. But if you come into the Reloading Room, you send me a private message, or Jason, a private message. Jason's an admin too. First thing you'll see at the Reloading Room is a posting from me. It's pinned to the top. Send me a message. We'll get you added.
Yep. Absolutely. Lots of ways to get a hold of us. You can private message any of us on Facebook, Google Plus. We're all on Google Plus and on Facebook, so you can get a hold of us that way.
Mike, you know what? You hit a good point. That includes you. You're not an admin in the Reloading Room, but I know you would make sure that any private message we got would be forwarded over to Jason or myself.
Absolutely. So, and same with the emails. Whenever we get questions in the emails, I forward them to the guys. So, we're a team, and we use each other's. We really help each other out, and we make sure we get your questions answered. Because
I don't know about that. The way we beat each other up.
listen, wise guy, don't. We already covered how long it would take me to get to your house. So.
Okay.
I don't work till 3 o'clock tomorrow. I got plenty of time.
Okay, love you, Mike. Saying goes, you scratch mine, I'll scratch yours.
Great. Free back scratch. Woo! Road trip. Anyway, so once again, thank you. Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
So long, farewell, I'd saying goodbye. I'm not singing anymore.